met in January the 16th, 2018, and we've been together pretty much every day since.
I said, you know what, I've always wanted to live in a van. This was on our very first date, by the way. It was not like a week into knowing him. This was that night, that Tinder date. I said it and he said, I've always wanted to live in a van too. And it was like that. 3 months later, we were on our way to Europe to live in a van together. Yeah. It was crazy, really. Before I met him, I was traveling around a lot by myself because I decided whenever I wanted to travel, nobody could come with me, so I started traveling solo. And then one of my friends was like, oh, you should start writing about where you went because I'm interested in where you went. And I really enjoy writing about where I've been because I love doing what I'm doing. So it turned into more from just helping people to loving what I'm doing while trying to help people. So yeah, I write about where we've gone and also everything van life. I have like how much it costs, how we find places to sleep on my blog, just like things that people are always asking me in real life. I decided to put it on there for people to refer to.
Yeah, so my job is I'm a crew member on super yachts. It can seem quite glamorous to the people outside, but it is a very hard job. You work long hours and you are at the beck and call to the owner or the guest. But the beauty of my job is that if I'm not in full-time employment, there is temporary work all over the world in the big marinas and the big ports. But I much prefer being on land and exploring, the national forests and the wildlife and stuff.
At your own pace, you want to go.
Exactly, and that's what it's about, isn't it? It's at your own pace. Hi everyone, I'm Dave.
And I'm Kelly.
This is Flo, our 2005 Dodge Sprinter. It's a 3500 Dually. It's actually got a Mercedes engine. It's 2.7 chain driven, the most reliable Sprinter engine that Mercedes have done. Mercedes Sprinter is one of the go-to vans for most people if you can afford one. We went for a slightly older one, 2005, because that was in our budget. We paid $9.5 for the van. The floor was all oily and wet and soggy. It was a proper builder's van. So yeah, everything was stripped out, cleaned, insulated, did all the flooring, and then built from the ground up, I suppose. Other additions that we made to the van after we bought her was the tyres. We got some all-terrain tyres and we upgraded the 15-inch standard wheel to a 16-inch, which improves the ride, stability and the handling of the vehicle. Another addition was the AMA bonded windows. The bonded window just purely means that it's glued on, as opposed to I think they're a CFS or CRS window. They have a frame which is screwed from the inside to the outside and holds the glass in. These are actually cheaper than the other windows, and I've had lots of compliments about the size of the opening that we have here. With the other windows, they can have flaps that only sort of open 45 degrees. This whole window here opens up and gives you a very big opening. The roof rack was an addition that we put on afterwards, along with the solar panels, 300-watt solar panels on the roof there. We installed a ladder rack, which is quite a simple roof rack system that you get for a lot of vans. And then I installed what you guys call super strut or uni strut, which are the lateral pieces of steel that go across from one end of the ladder rack to the other. And I bolted them to the underside and then bolted the solar panels to the top of that, and it does a great job. It keeps a low profile so the panels aren't sat up too high, obviously creating drag and the wind wanting to pick up those panels and rip them off the roof. We get no wobbles, no vibrations, and I'm really pleased with that. So inside, what everyone calls, I suppose, the garage in any van, we have quite a few different things. We've got a little bit of extra Reflectix in there, and our chairs and tools tend to stay over on the left. This is our water, which is 5-gallon containers of fresh water that we wash in. You could drink it, but we tend not to, just because it can be stored for a few days or a week or two, depending on how much water we use. This door here also leads into our sort of underbed storage, which you can access from inside the van as well. We've got here our two 125 amp hour batteries, which I've wired in parallel, which is positive to positive, negative to negative. That way you double the amp hours of the battery. And in the far corner there, which we can access from inside, is our charge controller for our solar.
All right, now that Dave showed you the outside, I'm going to show you the inside of our beautiful white home. Before I say anything else, the whole thing is white because I wanted it to be very light and inviting and spacious, and I think that's exactly how it turned out for us. A lot of people put darker colors, but I really liked the white to make it more airy and spacious in here. This is our beautiful 6-foot-long kitchen. Despite living in a van, we wanted a big kitchen because Dave used to be a chef, so he wanted lots of room to cook. We have a 3-burner propane stove. We keep the propane underneath here. We always have it in the off position. Our trash can is also under there, and simple things that we use on the stove with it. Easy access is our kitchen stuff. In this drawer here we have our pots, our pans, our plates, our bowls, silverware, all our cooking utensils, and all of these cabinets above here are all food pretty much. We love to eat, so these cabinets are awesome because they stay open by themselves. They're held open with these pistons here, which is super convenient for loading, unloading groceries whenever you're going through the cabinets. They won't fall down on your head. They also prevent them from rattling when the van is driving. These keep them shut very, very tightly, surprisingly. So there is no rattle from these cabinets at all. In this cabinet, we just have our 2 coolers filled with ice, which has worked just fine for us in our personal van. Anything that would go in a fridge, basically, we keep in those 2 coolers there. Here we have our sink. I wanted a modern looking sink, so I got my big tap that I wanted so much and I love. It pulls down. If we're doing dishes or something, it won't splash out here. Well, it could, I guess, but it pulls down so you can keep it in there. And under here is where the water comes from. We have one 6-gallon jug of water under here at a time, but as Dave showed you in the back, we have 3 of them. So we actually have 18 gallons of water total stored in our van. Our beautiful backsplash tile. Dave did this all himself. Everything in this van I pretty much designed, but Dave built. So he's very handy, and I'm very lucky that he was so handy. This is real ceramic tile. It came in sheets that were 1 foot by 1 foot. So I forget the total amount we bought, but maybe about 10 sheets of tile, and they were very cheap. They were like $3 a sheet. So we'd spent maybe $30 on this tile plus the cost of the grout. It was probably one of my favorite investments looks-wise in this van. I think it's beautiful. Our lights, we have 3 different options for lighting in here. This one controls our LED lights on the ceiling. So we have 6 of them on the ceiling. Our downlighting on the kitchen is actually controlled by a light switch back by the bed, because at nighttime we like to have it not so bright in here, and this is the perfect lighting, and when we want it dark we just hit the light switch from the bed. Alright, this is our floor to ceiling storage space. The top opens up like this, and the top here, it has 3 shelves. The top one you can see is all of our towels for both outside and indoor for showering and cleaning. This is basically our bathroom shelf, so I have 3 separate containers. From here down, or these 3, is our clothing. Dave got 1 shelf in the van for all his clothes, but organization is key, in my opinion, for living in a vehicle. I get 2 drawers, so this is my tops in the top drawer, and these are my bottoms in the bottom drawer, and I basically just roll them so that I can see everything at once, so that I don't have to dig through anything in a small space. So making the most of a small space. That's all the clothes I own. I own no clothes anywhere else in the world, so that's pretty good for a girl. And this bottom one is kind of like our cleaning supplies. So where you would have something under the stairs in a normal home is kind of like that. We have our laundry stuff in here, and our cleaning sprays in here, and our broom to sweep the floors. This is kind of our cleaning cabinet down there. It opens, and surprisingly, this one doesn't have a magnet on it, which I need to talk about, but this stays shut. It's never opened on its own. All right, so our bed we decided to do sideways because we're both short. Tall people might want to put it the other way, but our bed is this way. There's a foam mattress here. Next to our bed here is where the light switch is for the kitchen that I mentioned earlier. So from bed we can turn lights on or off without having to get up at night, or if we want to turn a light on in the middle of the night, it's accessible there. We have 4 USB ports here to charge our phones, our cameras, or whatever we would like to charge at nighttime. And then a little shelf up here to put our phones on. So this is basically where we put our phones when we go to bed. All right, the overhead above our bed is for the smaller articles of our clothing. I have these storage bins up here. This is basically Dave's underwear, Dave's socks, and my underwear, bathing suits, bras, sports bras. So all of the smaller articles of our clothing are organized in bins up there, except for the far side is more like a nightstand for us, because we keep our couple books to read. We watch movies on my iPad at nighttime, which we set up here, so we can lay in bed and watch a movie, and we connect the sound to an external speaker. So we put that behind our head, and it's kind of like a surround sound TV from bed. So we keep our bedtime entertainment in this section. Under the bed is a secret element of our 4-foot-long butcher block table. So it's closed, you can't see it when the door's closed, obviously. You open it up and it sits right here underneath our bed. It's also a space saver, so we only have it out when we need it. It also has a lock to keep it from coming out when we're moving the van. So we simply pull this down to unlock it, and the table pulls out. So this is it all the way out. As you can see, it's huge. It's made out of butcher block. It's very heavy and sturdy material. We pull it all the way out if we're both sitting here eating dinner, but if I'm just doing work on my computer, I'll pull it out about that much and sit in the corner and use it as a desk. And at nighttime, sometimes, occasionally, we'll use it as a little nightstand for a snack or drinks. We'll set it here next to the bed. And when we're done using it, it pushes right back in, and you would never know it's there. Underneath the table, we just have basically our hiking gear, our backpacks, winter coats, and things that we don't use very often. We can access our solar information there. We can also turn this switch on here, which will tell us how many amps or volts our solar panels are currently drawing. This has 2 more USB ports in it as well, right there, as well as a 12-volt charger. Next would be our bench seat, which is also 5 feet long, which looks like it's just a bench seat, but underneath there's actually 3 separate storage compartments. The first one is a toilet. So I use this all the time. We simply pull this up like this. That is how we go number 1 in this van. We don't do anything more than that, but that is there. I actually use this all the time. Hidden toilet is in the first compartment. The second compartment is just shoes. We both love our shoes, so even though we live minimally, we have a lot of shoes. So yes, we have an entire compartment for all of our shoes. If they're really muddy, we'll just leave them down by the door after we've gone hiking until they're dry. But once they're dry, all our shoes are there. And the third and final one is in here. Dave actually built me a little shelf for all my electronics, so I keep my electronics in here. My laptop is up on the shelf, and down there I have my camera, my drone. To charge all of these electronics I keep in here, we actually just have this little inverter that I bought at Home Depot, and because we don't have a large inverter in the back, Dave really wanted to get one. We just bought this to start with. We plug it into here, plugs into our 12 volt, and then we plug our computers into here. It is all we have needed since we bought this. We ended up not having to get a big 1,000, 2,000 watt inverter. This charges our laptops, this charges my drone batteries, this charges my camera batteries, this charges anything I have needed to use a regular plug for. Lastly, this is kind of our decorative wall. It doesn't have that much on it. The wall itself is made out of beadboard. It was very affordable. Again, I keep saying that word because we were on a budget when we built. It came in huge 4x8 sheets that came in white, but again we used a nail gun on the wall to attach this, so there was actually nails all over our walls. We filled in the ones that needed to be filled, but really just used a rolling paintbrush to paint over all of that, so you couldn't see all of those nails when we were finished. Over here we have all of the magnets that we've collected of our travels. It's not everywhere we've been, not even close to everywhere we've been. It's just some of the places that we've gotten to go this year in 2019. it kind of goes in order from how we bought them. So when we first drove west, we started in South Dakota in Badlands National Park, and today we're in California. So the last one over there is the Pacific Coast Highway, I believe, maybe Yosemite, somewhere in California. We just wanted a memorabilia to remember where we were. We didn't want them to be stickers because stickers rip or you can't remove them. These are easily removable, so we can have them forever. So it's to travel to remote places on a budget.
Anyone can jump on a flight or a train or a coach, and you just tend to go to the cities, the towns. So I love the peacefulness that the country has to offer, and that's what we thrive for in the van. You know, driving away from the hustle and bustle, getting out into the mountains, hiking, being in the middle of nowhere with nobody around but nature and ourselves. It's been incredible driving on some dirt tracks up a mountain to then watch the Milky Way come up over the peaks and stuff, you know.
And the wildlife. We've had bears trying to get into our van. We've had bear prints on the side in the morning. We've seen wildlife, just mountain goats, and we were whale watching the other day out the window before we were falling to sleep from bed.
We were very lucky, and it was incredible to see that so close to the shore. People always ask us, where are you going next, or when do you have to be here, or when are you going to stop? And our answer is always the same. It's like, we don't have a plan, we just go with the flow, and that's why our van's called Flow.
No.
Just your head, babe.
Yeah, just like right there in the window.
Can you do it?
You just make it so awkward.
I know, I want him to do it. Dave! So this is his tops, his bottoms, and then his sweaters.
Does she fold your clothes for you?
I do that, actually.
Okay.
I usually fold them. He did fold them the last time. I just kind of cleaned it up right now.
You don't ever like sneak a poop when she's not looking?
No, I go outside in the bushes. I'm not allowed to use it.